Good Pram Sam Jatta George calls for sanctions against the U.S. Embassy in Ghana, describing as an affront to Ghana's sovereignty the embassy's move to hoist an LGBTQ flag at its premises in Accra. Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara and bitter rival Laurent Gbagbo, meet 10 years after a civil war involving the two opposing sides left about 3,000 people dead. Thanks for joining us. And just coming in, the Cape Coast High Court has declared the election of Assin North NDC MP Joe Jatukwesen as null and void. Lawyers for the MP withdrew an application seeking to invoke the Supreme Court's supervisory jurisdiction on Tuesday. We are going to give you details of this in the news. But for now, let's go back and talk about the LGBTQ happenings here in Ghana. And Member of Parliament for Ninggo Pram, Sam Jatta George, has described as an affront to Ghana's sovereignty American embassy's move to hoist an LGBTQ plus flag at its premises here in Accra. As part of Pride Month, the embassy flown a flag in solidarity and support for LGBTQ plus community in Ghana. But speaking on Metro TV's Good Evening Ghana, the legislator urged government to take immediate action against the embassy.
Recently, the United States Embassy in Ghana put out an advertisement seeking for an advocate for LGBTQ here in Ghana. Okay, I believe that the U.S. Embassy must be minded by the Vienna Convention. The Vienna Convention on Diplomacy states that diplomats must be respectful of the local laws of their host country. If the host country criminalizes, as it is today, homosexuality in our country, it is an affront to the sovereignty of the state hoisting an LGBTQ flag in our country. The U.S. ambassador, this directive came from the State Department, and the flags were to be hoisted in June, because June is Gay Pride Month. The U.S. Embassy in Ghana did not do it. Because of the discussion on the passage of this bill, they're trying to make a grandstand position. It's needless showmanship, okay? Because the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia has not hoisted a flag. And I would demand or expect the Flagstaff House to instruct the foreign minister to summon the U.S. ambassador.
Will you put an urgent question for the foreign minister in parliament?
That's an opportunity. That's something that's open to us, because you must respect states are equal before the law. And let us understand one thing, that if the U.S. is talking about human rights, just 2 months ago, before the UN Assembly, a human rights bill was put before Parliament, the UN General Assembly. The United States blocked the passage of the human rights bill. The US blocked it. And so we should ask ourselves a simple fundamental question. What rights is the US pushing? And what are they trying to... I mean, it's an affront to our sovereignty.
The Ninggo Pram MP also dismissed claims that Ghana will be blacklisted if the current anti-LGBTI bill is passed into law.
This bill actually is the best LGBTQ bill in the world so far. We've looked at almost all the legislation that exists. In fact, the Ugandan bill is called Kill the Gays. The Kill the Gays Bill Act. It's been passed into law. Uganda has not been made a pariah state. Nigeria has actually imposed the death penalty for homosexuality. In Nigeria has not been blacklisted and called a pariah state. Ghana, that has a legislation that ensures the fundamental rights of a free trial in court for persons accused. Ghana, that has a reformative process in our law, in our bill, actually stands in better legal stead in the International Committee of Nations, that we should not under any circumstances be blacklisted, except Ghanaians on their own go and lobby the foreign countries to blacklist us. But nobody can blacklist us, because I keep saying this bill preaches love and not hate. And even Jesus Christ, who is the epitome of love, he loves sinners, but there's a punishment for sin when you sin.
Okay.
So let's still stay on the matter of LGBTQ, and we are joined in studio by Dr. Julius Kweku Kata, a diplomacy expert, to tell us more about what exactly this really means. Hello and welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, considering the fact that Article 22 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations 1960,
and you know that we have a global index for legal recognition of homosexual persons or people. I think that in one way or the other, since these are emerging issues, social inclusion emerging issues need to be looked at. We have to find why these things are happening in this era of the 21st century. Because it's just not a way of trying to condemn the LGBT, but we have to look at the fundamental rights of each and everyone or society or group. Yeah.
All right, and I want to find out what the implication will be for Ghana if the LGBTQ bill in Parliament is passed in its current state.
Well, I will say that, from my opinion, you realize that these LGBT issues are happening in our domain. They are things that are done in hidden. You can't do away with that fact. But what is the level of managing the situation, and how do we do it in such a way that the country will not infringe the right of individuals or people or societies who are in it? You get my point. So intellectual perspective, academic, we need to go into we have to delve into a research to find out why these things are happening and what are the remedies and solutions we have to find.
All right, but then I also want to find out, won't it mar the relationship between Ghana and its allies, talking over the international front, if the bill is passed and if what is done by LGBTQI+?
That's why there's a need for diplomatic dialogues. You see, we cannot just say because the US has done this, then we start pushing certain conflicts, misunderstanding between us and our international relations. We need to know the reason for which all these things are done. And we are going to understand the basis.
But you don't know where the problem is. The fact that we still are talking about this in the country, even Parliament is still talking about it. And we have an embassy in Ghana, US embassy, still hoisting the flag of a problem that is still being talked about by members of Parliament. Is that not the problem?
It may seem to the public as a problem, but let us go further into diplomatical understanding of the issue. We need to know, because every occurrence or every issue diplomatically need to be understood. So we need to understand why. What are the things that what the reason why US has done that? We need to find out first as a country. It's very important. I would also find out. Every individual would have to, the government would have to put measures in place, machinery in place to find out.
We are in a Pride Month, a month where persons who fall under the LGBTQ actually celebrate what they call the Pride Month, actually. And so it's in connection with that. If Ghana is still talking about this and a section of the country fronts on this, and we have an embassy still hoisting a flag, in as much as there are a lot of talks about it, is that not disrespect to what the country is actually fighting for?
Well, for the country to fight on the basis of not allowing LGB to happen in this country, or for it, there are legal processes that have to take place, and those legal processes are the processes that the government is putting in place for things to be done in the right way. If I may understand the question well, you get my point.
Yeah.
Because everything that happens relating to human rights need to follow certain fundamental rights. And those rights must be stipulated in the Constitution. And if it is not found in the Constitution, what do we do? What are the things that we have to do to put measures in place? Mind you, to be even dangerous for African countries, Ghana specifically, to let these people go into hiding and be doing things in hiding, where their social inclusion ability will not be recognized. we must be mindful of that as well.
All right, thank you so much for your time this year on the Flash. We're grateful.
Thank you.
And so I have been here with Dr. Julius Kwekukata, who is a diplomacy expert. He's been talking and telling us about the recent discourse concerning the LGBTQ legalization here in the country. Away from that, for now, a member of Parliament for Sarinugu constituency, ABA Fuseni, is calling on President Akufo-Addo to dismiss the Health Minister, Kweku Agyemang-Menu, over his decision to bypass Parliament and Cabinet into signing an agreement for the purchase of Sputnik V vaccines. ABA Fuseni is wondering why the minister refused to heed to a legal advice by the Attorney General not to go ahead and sign the deal.
How did the minister go publicly to indicate that first that he had taken leave of his senses? In any serious democracy, how can anybody say that you have taken leave of your senses? So what was the minister working with when he took leave of his senses? That's a very serious matter. Very serious matter, for which the president should have dismissed him even long before. Now, additionally, the minister has indicated that he did not send the matter to cabinet. Cabinet presided over by the president should have dealt with this matter. Okay? It was not done. Yes, and I'm saying that he decided not to even take it to him, let alone even take his advice. Okay, so he flouted a fundamental thing. He didn't take it to cabinet, okay, which is presided over by president for cabinet to take a decision on it. He did not bring it to parliament. It's an international transaction. It ought to come to parliament for approval. So on all the scores, the major transactions and where it has been anchored legally, he decided to forgo all those institutions and so much to act on his own state. He has no authority to do what he has done. He has flagrantly abused the law, not to even talk about even the procurement laws of the country. I'm sure you are aware that it was so single source. It was not even subjected to competitive bidding. But all those ones can come. So on all those courts, the president should have sacked him long ago. Now, if he's even daring the president to sack him, can you see a minister daring the president to sack him? And the president appears to be impotent on this matter.
Still live here on this Flash Live on Metro TV, channel 277 on DSTV. We'll return from this break with some other stories.
Did you know that cloth handkerchief gets dirty and wet after wiping your sweat or blowing your nose with it? Keeping a dirty handkerchief in your pocket or bag is very unhygienic. Reusing it increases your chances of getting sick from germs. That is why I always use Flora disposable handkerchiefs. Flora disposable handkerchiefs is disposable, thus making it a more hygienic option. It's thick and very absorbent. With 10 tissues in a pack, Flora disposable handkerchief is better than a cloth handkerchief.
Mommy, my Flora disposable handkerchief.
Look out for Flora toilet roll, Flora multi-purpose paper towels, Flora table napkins, and Flora box tissues in a shop near you. For both purchases, call Delta Paper Mail on 0243 033 033.
Cross-border trade challenges. He spoke at the 5th Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference held in Accra.
The 5th Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference was centered on the theme Facilitating Trade and Trade Finance, the role of the financial services sector. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia called for a robust legal and regulatory framework to protect trade systems across the continent.
Since payments are at the heart of the day-to-day operations of a free trade system, negative spillover effects can be serious if something goes wrong. And this is why, to ensure that the payment systems run effectively, they must be subjected to a robust legal and regulatory framework that assures all stakeholders, In 2019, the government of Ghana introduced a new Payment System Act, Act 987, to consolidate the laws relating to payment systems, payment services, and regulate institutions in the electronic money business.
Chonam Akpelo, the Greater Accra chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, said a common trade payment platform will facilitate trade under the African Continental Free Trade regime.
The tenants and prospects of AFTA will greatly be enhanced if we push for a uniform payment system that will make payments for cross-border transactions more convenient. The Pan-African Payment Platform developed by Afri-Exim Bank is one that I hope will facilitate cross-border payments. We would encourage African central banks and finance ministers to quicken the pace of implementation and adoption of this platform.
CEO of Gitfik, Selassie Akom, believes that the Pan-African payment system is the way to go.
We've all come to understand and agree here on this platform today that we cannot move forward without a robust, stringent, vibrant, prudent Pan-African payment and settlement system, because it's very, very critical in facilitating cross-border payments with regards to continental trade. So this has been the takeaway. The Vice President gave some good key advices in his opening address and advised the continent of the way forward. He specifically stressed on the fact that their member countries already have systems in place fragmentedly. So all there is that needs to be done is to have the platform, i.e. the Afri-Exim platform, open their switch for connectivity. So when each member state connects, it immediately works. Because there's no time, he stressed. There's no time in implementing the cross-border payment system.
This year's event hosted governors of Central Bank of Francophone West Africa, Central Africa, and West Africa.
Let's now focus on other African countries. And Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara greeted ex-President Laurent Gbagbo at the presidential palace in a bid to reduce tensions after Gbagbo's return from exile last month.
Gbagbo, ousted during a civil war in 2011 and acquitted of war crimes in The Hague, fleeing home on June 17 from a decade in exile. His supporters have eagerly anticipated his return ever since his acquittal in 2019 on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity at the International Criminal Court in The Hague related to his role in the Civil War. Gbagbo, 76, came to office in 2000 and governed during a turbulent decade that saw Ivory Coast split in two following an army mutiny in 2002. His refusal to concede defeat to Ouattara, his political nemesis in the 2010 election, then prompted the war in which more than 3,000 people were killed.
I am hoping that from time to time we can have more meetings such as this in which we will clear the air in the country. As far as I am concerned, I insisted with the President on the subject of the prisoners who were arrested at the time of the crisis of 2010-2011 and who are still in prison. I told the President I was their leader and I am out today and they are in prison. I would like for the President to do what he can to liberate them. So this is the first time both President Alassane Ouattara and bitter rival Laurent Gbagbo have met since the civil war 10 years ago. To help us understand the current situation and euphoria in Ivory Coast is Ivorian journalist Francois Embra II. He is the country's correspondent for ivortv.net. Welcome, Francois. Now, how are your fellow Ivorians taking the news of the reconciliation between former President Laurent Gbagbo and the current President Alassane Ouattara after conflict that sparked by Mr. Gbagbo's refusal to admit defeat in an election that saw about 3,000 people lose their lives 10 years ago?
Good morning, and thank you so much. Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara and his rival, the former President of Ivory Coast, Laurent Gbagbo, met yesterday, Monday, 27th of July, 2021. And this symbolic meeting happens after 10 years deadly post-electoral crisis that killed more than 3,000 people. For the Ivorian, the mere facts for the two presidents to be together to meet is a sign of national reconciliation and root for peace. It's a strong image that can permit Ivorian to believe in national reconciliation and peace in the coming days. So this meeting is one of the most precious actions that both Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo has done for the Ivorian people.
All right, so the former president is also preaching peace and also requesting of President Alassane Ouattara to release persons who were jailed following the unrest some 10 years back. How are Ivorians receiving this plea coming from him?
Yeah, the former president requests of Alassane Ouattara to release the prisoners, the electoral crisis prisoners. This is a natural player because Laurent Gbagbo were the chief and is released now for a deep reconciliation between the Ivorian people, for a good reconciliation in Ivory Coast. We need to release the other prisoners. So this player is so natural that can permit both President Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo to work together for peace and reconciliation in Ivory Coast. So for the Ivorian president, it's a way, for the former Ivorian president, it's a way to go to reconciliation. And Ivorian people think that if Laurent Gbagbo asks the president, Ivorian president, to release the prisoner, this is the right way, and this can lead them straightly to national reconciliation. Because we cannot understand that there are many people in prison. They are prisoner because they play a very important role during the crisis. They are in prison, and we talk about national reconciliation. This cannot be done if they are not released. This is what the Ivorian people think.
All right, thank you, Francois. We will come back to you in the subsequent news bulletin for more update as to what is happening in Ivory Coast concerning these two legends meeting and making peace. But for now, let's cross over and come back to Ghana. As I told you earlier, the Cape Coast High Court has declared the election of Assin North NDC MP Joe Jachikwason as null and void. Lawyers for the MP withdrew an application seeking to invoke the Supreme Court's supervisory jurisdiction on Tuesday. I have now been joined on phone by a member of the NDC, Alessa Bethia, to tell us the stance of the NDC on this particular ruling coming in from the Cape Coast High Court. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners or viewers.
Great to have you here. How are you receiving this news?
Well, we are unperturbed. We know that most battles will be uphill, so this doesn't come as a surprise. The actions of the court itself this morning were quite unfortunate. We were in the Supreme Court yesterday, as you've mentioned. One of the application we had before the Supreme Court, they said that they needed it in a particular format. And therefore, if it doesn't come in that format, they would not be in a position to listen to it, and therefore advised us to go back to the High Court and get it in the right format, and that is the basis upon which the case was withdrawn. And therefore, we filed applications, or we tried to file the applications this morning from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. All the registry and the pay office were closed. So whatever we did, we could not file. The judge went into court at 9 o'clock and started reading his judgment. And when he did that, automatically the offices were opened and then we could file. But obviously it becomes, we will advise ourselves as to what the next course of action is. We have real concerns about the nature of the judgment. For a start, there's a reliance on, there was no distinction drawn between citizenship and allegiance. And we think that that is very clear and unambiguous in our constitution. The first part or the beginning of the constitution talks about people who are not citizens that can, if you're not a citizen, you cannot hold various positions. But in this section, it talks about people who must not, who cannot be MPs, must not have allegiance to another country. And so even in our constitution, there's a clear distinction between citizenship and allegiance. And now nobody seems to be drawing that distinction or making a comment on that matter. So that in itself is a matter which we had said was necessary and may become necessary for the Supreme Court to rule on, because the Supreme Court is the ultimate interpreter of the of matters within the Constitution. Also of interest is the fact that the case of Zaneto, which was quoted in this case as well in the judgment, is a case that deals with Article 94 as well, but it deals with 94.1, which is different from Article 94.2, which is the issue of allegiance. And therefore, to apply it directly without explaining or drawing the distinction by the Supreme Court itself would mean that it may not be the same, the processes and procedures may not necessarily be the same. And therefore, that is why we wanted the Supreme Court to actually rule and interpret the different or the issues with regard to Article 94.2. There are three important dates in this matter. The first date is the date when processes are filed. The second date is the date when we actually had the election. And the third date is when he actually swears and becomes a member of parliament. The first two dates, he is never a member of parliament, we say. And therefore, based on that, we think that there's the need for some interpretation on these matters.
Thank you so much for your time that's here on the news. We'll come back to you at exactly 12 when Newsbeat is back here with all the details and happenings here in Ghana. We'll come to for more details. We want to find out what exactly the NDC is doing in the interim as you wait for a next line of action. So I've been speaking with Alex Segbefia. He is former Minister of Health and also a member of the NDC response team for the COVID-19. You're still watching NewsFlash here. I am Bryce and Akusiam, and that's it for NewsFlash. The news will be back at 12 with Newsbeat. Good morning.